I'm with Paola Antonelli on her visit to Tec de Monterrey. And I am so glad to have the opportunity of this interview. Paola, welcome to Monterrey.
Thank you.
Welcome to Mexico. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Roberto. I'm super happy to be here. My first time in Monterrey, entonces a great experience.
Thank you very much. Paola, you just gave us an incredible, amazing lecture.
Thank you.
And where you were explaining, of course, all your work, and there was a couple of things that are connected with the first question that I would like to ask. You were mentioning that in today's design, the criticality and the political position is part of the foundation, or is at the center of the design activity. And one of my questions was exactly what topics you consider relevant today or in the current state of creation and production of the field of contemporary design. What will be the relevant issues right now?
Well, it's about living together, right? Of course, but it's also about, of course, the climate crisis that is and undeniably at the very core of every designer's work these days. And it's the crisis of so many other things besides the climate crisis. It's the crisis of democracy and political crisis in the world. It's the crisis of belief in truth, the crisis of truth. People don't really know what to believe anymore. And I don't mean to sound very negative, but it's a very important moment in the world, because it's a moment in which so much can be destroyed and so much can be built, right? So it's a moment of despair and hope. And as a friend of mine says very often, hope is an engine. So if you embrace hope, you have the energy to try and make things better.
So you consider that design our designers, we have we gotta be the optimists.
Well,
regards bringing hope to society.
It's not really. Optimism is a little bit of a position of faith. I think that hope is more. It's also faith, I think, but it is just a direction, a vector. Without thinking it's all going to be okay. We hope that it can be okay. Optimist, it's going to be okay. Hopeful person, I'm going to try, I'm going to work towards it. So I think that designers are innately constructive. That's what they do, right? I'm not talking, I mean, there are some designers that are destructive, of course, but in general, designers have that hopeful gene in them.
Great. I really like it. And thank you very much. And you also mentioned regarding the MoMA R&D saloons. That have become like very renowned, I will say. Could you tell us a little bit about them, and well, how can museums become this idea that you mentioned of being the R&D departments for society? That is very
Well, museums are incredible places, and they are places still. I mean, I always think of a museum as a space. And in many moments in the history of many different countries, museums have become political spaces. And when I say political, I mean spaces where we discuss social life together, right? So it's very important to maintain that particular aspect in the personality of a museum. Otherwise, people are going to think only that you go and look at paintings on walls. So that's what happened in 2008 when there was the financial crisis. I had the idea of starting a MoMA R&D department because I thought the financial sector has shown the world that it really is not interested in progress. It's not interested in society. It's only interested in its own interest. So instead, let's show that the cultural sector is what can really provide progress to society. So this MoMA R&D was, since the beginning, a way to explain to people that museums can be the R&D of society. And the salons, we're now at number 44. So it's been, I know, I'm really happy. Thank you. they are these occasions in which I bring together 4 or 5 speakers. At least one of them is either a curator or an artist. They come from many different sectors. I give an introduction, then each speaker speaks for 7 minutes. There are videos from other parts of the world. And then there's a conversation with the audience, and the audience receives beforehand a reading list. So they come prepared, or at least careful about what they say. And so the conversation is really good. And the topics are topics like death, or like protest, or philanthropy, or breath, when there was both COVID and Black Lives Matter, so breath as a social, political, and historical kind of meaning. So, every time, the last one that we did was about traces, this idea that you have to be able to read traces because you can't really trust the truth that is given to you. And the next one is going to be about sports teams. Now, team sports, sorry, I got confused.
Team source. Wow, wow.
Yeah.
No, I have been following the salons, and I got to tell you that they are amazing.
Thank you.
And a great way to approach relevant and very complex issues of today's society, and design is able to help us.
Thank you. We try
in order to approach this kind of complexity, right?
Thanks.
Yeah, wonderful. And now that we are talking regarding complexity and issues, in your last visit, that was during the pandemic, remember?
Yeah, I know.
So at
last
the end, you visited
Zoom
us
visit.
virtually.
Yes,
Exactly,
yes,
it was
yes.
a Zoom visit. So I'm very happy to have you here without pixels. It's wonderful. It's amazing now. I remember that you mentioned it just at the end, that the next revolution will be regards the material culture.
Okay, I said so. That's good. I'm proud. Happy I said so. Yes.
And we'll be one of them. Because we discussed about many things, and that resonates with a lot in our community.
Of course. Yeah.
This video, of course, is for the academic community of the schools and faculty and students. Could you elaborate a little bit more on at least how during this? It was like a couple of years ago, maybe,
it was
that
a couple
discussion.
Of years ago, yeah.
Maybe during this last year, which shifts we can identify in this material culture revolution, if I can mention it that way.
I don't know if it's a revolution, but it's more attention given to material cultures. I would add the S now, right? Because you can look at the work of many designers and architects and even artists that are trying to understand, instead of trying to be global or galactic, are trying to understand the culture where they come from, or the culture of the place that adopted them. And material culture, the definition itself, I wouldn't be able to give it to you right now, but the way I interpret it is that it's the patrimony of a group, of a community, the patrimony in objects, in gastronomy, and it's everything that is material and that is part of somebody's culture. And it's the realm of anthropology, right? And it's also a very, very rich for design, because anthropology and design are really tied at the hip. And I've been looking at the work done, even here in Mexico. I met some amazing designers, some of them, like Fernando Laposa, even part of the collection of MoMA, that are really trying to understand. In the case of Fernando, it's Tonahuixtla in the state of Puebla, and it's understanding the heritage corn and so on and so forth. Others are working on in other parts of the world. I'm thinking of Vinu Daniel, for instance, who has a company. He's an architect in Kerala in India, and his company is called Wall Makers, because he tries to learn from the bricklayers and the workers that are already in the state. So there are many architects and designers that are trying really to understand the material culture of a certain place, and to therefore build or not build organically from within. And I think that this is becoming more and more important when we think of all the different crises that we're facing, from the environmental one to the culture, democracy, blah, blah, blah. So It really is one possible way out of the rut that we find ourselves in.
Thank you. It got, well, many of the things that you mentioned got my attention, but one of it was that you put the S at the end of culture.
Yeah.
We have an initiative, well, I think that I already told you a little bit about what we are doing here at Tec de Monterrey, so you are now very familiar.
Yeah.
But we discussed a lot on how to entitle. Mm-hmm. Originally it was art and culture, and then after the discussion, we put the S in both. Arts and cultures.
Important.
With this idea of understanding different ways of being in the world, right? Because this universality approach of the world sometimes set a limit.
It's too abstract.
On the plural ways of being in the world, and so local and the place are relevant and important, and we need to have the lens of the plural, right, with the S?
I think so. I think that using the plural is an acknowledgement of the fact that the singular is usually a particularly established, patriarchal, white, Western singular. And I don't mean to be politically correct, but it's the truth. Whenever you think singularly, you use a model that is the model that has been established for centuries, which we're trying right now to break. And we're trying to break it because everybody's life is going to be enriched by it. So acknowledging a pluralism of ways of being and many, many cultures is ultimately beneficial for everyone, even though there are some growing pains. You know, right now there's a lot of tensions, the issues of appropriation, the issues of restitution. There's a lot that's going on that speaks to the growing pains, but this is an important revolution.
Yeah, fully agree with you. Thank you very much. And well, Paola, last question. There is a lot of discussion in academia regards artificial intelligence. So, and well, we have been in the middle of several technological revolution, and mainly in the last 3 decades, digital technologies have transformed the way we live in several ways. But now this disruptive technology that is getting very, very, very fast into our lives is going to very quickly integrate in everyday society activities and ways of being in the world also. What will be the role of design of it? And I have colleagues that are embracing artificial intelligence very quickly, but also many critical positions about it. So what will be the role on design, and how will you think it will change our discipline?
You know, being both accepting and critical is very healthy. It's the way we should be, right? And so everybody has their role in this evolution. Traditionally, in my opinion, design has taken revolutions that happen in science or in history and translated them into life, right? I always think of the internet and the fact that it used to be lines of code until the designers of Mosaic came about, and then it became an interface, and so you could use it. So there is this interface that design has. So even when it comes to AI, I mean, AI is already integrated in our life, whether we know it and want it or not. It's already part of our lives in many different aspects. In a way, now it's available to little people like us, right? It's almost a revolution that went from the mainframe computer to the desktop and the home computer. So that's what's happening. I would like to think that AI is another tool. And I think that what design should do is highlight the fact that it's a tool, right? And designers working in all their different aspects should remind people that technology is never the goal, it's one of the means to achieve goals. So I am hoping that designers will join the other public thinkers of the world in reminding people that it's ultimately up to them and not up to AIs to decide how we're going to live and what we're going to do. Is there going to be really a dystopia and a singularity? I don't know. I really have a hard time imagining the future, but I think that the best that we can do is to stimulate each individual and people's own critical tools so that they can have their own grain of salt.
Thank you very much, Paola.
Thank you, Roberto.
It is a pleasure to have you here at Tec de Monterrey.
It's been really a wonderful pleasure for me.
And feel very welcome always, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.